strikeouts in a game. 20.
Swung on and driven to deep left. It is hard. Nice ball. Yankees win. Yankees win. Bernie Williams homers deep in the left field seat to lead off the 11th inning on a one-run finish. And the Yankees beat the Orioles 5-4 to win Game 1 of the American League Championship Series. Burn, baby, burn. He's done it again.
Deep left. There it goes. Flying into history. He's done it. He has done it. 62. Aaron Judge is the American League single-season home run leader. The AL King. Case closed.
What is going on, baseball fans? Jeremy Ladderquente here, once again back at it with our state of the franchise. From championship glory to rebuilding years, every team has a story. And today, the team we're discussing has one of the most interesting stories of the 2025 campaign. It is that of the Athletics, and we're honored to bring on our guest from the Locked On A's podcast. What's going on, man?
Hey, Jeremy. Hey, thanks for having me. Not a whole lot, man. Just good to be here. Spring training's underway. Gotta love that.
Absolutely. Best time of the year.
100%.
So as we get into the series, we always like to take a little bit of a retrospective and kind of get a gut reaction on the previous campaign. So tell me your gut reaction to the A's 2024 season.
Obviously, the A's had a lot of off-field issues going on last year, with the last year being in Oakland and the move and controversy surrounding that, and the 3 years going to Sacramento, then to Las Vegas. What they lost touch of was the baseball team that was on the field. A lot of people don't realize that in the month of July and August, the A's had the 4th best record in the American League. I believe the 7th best record in Major League Baseball. They had 3 games along in that stretch where they simply gave away, dumped away. You take those out of the string, take that out of the way, all of a sudden now it's one of the best records in baseball. We're talented, we're deep, we're strong. And during those 2 months is really the most consistent our roster was all year long. September was a month where all the call-ups happened, and the first half of the year was a struggle. We didn't really have our roster set. I was very, very excited about last year and the type of baseball we had, although we only won 69 games. A lot of things got introduced in the second half of the year that really, really makes this year extremely, extremely optimistic.
Definitely know for sure. And one of the most intriguing parts this year had been exactly how active, the A's had been, especially early on in the offseason.
Sure.
Something that we hadn't really seen over the last several years. Bringing in, Luis Severino, Jose Leclerc, Gio Urshela, trading for Jeffrey Springs. I mean, just a number of different moves. Of all those major acquisitions that were made by Oakland, what do you think is going to be kind of the most impactful, and which one would you pick as a more underrated move?
All of the moves were solid. The whole key for that, the move I like the best, depending, now you can say this for all ball clubs, but the whole strategy with regard to the A's and going to a minor league ballpark is getting a player who they were 2 or 3 years ago, right? Jeffrey Springs, for me, is the key to the whole A's year. 3 years ago with Tampa Bay, he was one of the best left-handers in the American League, if not all in baseball. Had Tommy John surgery, etc. Now, how you're coming back from Tommy John surgery is up in the air. Some say the rest makes you stronger. It gives you a little bit of advantage. We'll see. This year's the first spring training he's had in 3 years. He just had his first outing a couple days ago. Went 2 innings, gave up 2 hits, struck out 2. He looked good. He looked good. Didn't give up any runs. So optimistic sign. Obviously, Severino's a workhorse. He's going to give you what he has. He's going to give you innings. Again, injuries, right? If he stays healthy, big if. Gio Urshela, just a pro. You got an above average person at third base. Hitting, he's solid, right? Third base was an issue we had. When you're talking about Gio Urshela, you're talking about a veteran glove. You're talking about a professional Major League Baseball player. You fill enough of those guys on your roster, you're going to be in good shape. So I like the moves we made. Let's not forget about Jose Leclerc. She's just two years ago talking about him being the most dominant closer in all of baseball. All of a sudden, he has a down year. Everyone forgets about him. You know, the A's pick him up on a 1-year deal worth $10 million. He's going to be our setup guy. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, once the game hits the 7, if we have a lead after 7 innings, game over. We look good. I like what we're doing. I like the pickups they made. Again, a lot of people are like, hey, they spent money. A lot of it had to do with the A's had to spend because they had to participate in the revenue sharing. So they had to get into a luxury tax payroll of $105 million, which they met. Severino was 3 years, $63 million. I think they took over Spring's contract, which was like 2 years, $25. They signed Leclerc to 1 year, $10 million. They just also signed Luis Urias too. Another veteran guy, another veteran platoon guy. Again, you know, just 3 years ago, I believe 23 bombs. So that's been their strategy with what they have had to work with regard to payroll. Let's get the guy who was a stud 3 years ago, fighting injuries, not the player everyone thinks, and maybe he has a little bit of a resurgence. So I like the moves they made.
Yeah, I agree. I thought when we first, heard about the Severino signing, I'm like, what is happening with the A's right now?
Right.
Like, they moved to Sacramento for a couple of years and they become a whole different team in terms of swinging habits. But yeah, definitely an interesting club for sure.
100%.
As we kind of look towards that future, I just want to ask you, as far as the ballpark in Sacramento, what have you heard about it? What can you tell us about it?
Interesting question, because I've heard two different things. So when you look at how the River Cats did, which is the Giants minor league team, and they played in that ballpark last year, they played at, it was considered just above average, right? A friend of mine that played in the Giants organization, played for the River Cats, never made it, but spent a number of years in the minors, said the ball flies out there. And big leaguers are going to absolutely kill it. So it's mixed. It's mixed reviews on it. I did an episode on Locked On A's on that. I think generally the public and who you talk to out there has it 52, 53% to 47 for the hitter. If you're going to make a percentage of it, I'm more about 60-40 for the hitter. They have gone out and signed some ground ball pitchers to give them that type of advantage. It's also, you're also talking about that. You're also talking about that small ballpark, right? That small ballpark intimacy. I think it's similar to basketball. You go have someone shooting an arena, 20,000 people, 30,000 people. It's like shooting in space. Versus if you go to a grammar school or whatever it may be, or a college, or a small thing, you're in an arena with a backstop. It's just easier. So I think that has a difference. That's going to make a difference as well. So I think it's going to play to the advantage of the hitter. And again, it depends on the type of year. May, May, excuse me, as the weather is cooler, a little bit more to the pitcher as it gets hotter. June, July, August, temperatures reach over 100. They are playing in Sacramento. They are playing at night. So again, temperatures won't be at 100, 105 at night, but it's not going to be cool either. And you're still looking about 82, 83 degrees. So
for sure. No, yeah, I think it's definitely going to be one of the more interesting things to follow as the season goes along. Especially with the moves that they've made, as you mentioned, bringing in some ground ball pitchers to kind of try to see if they can counteract some of those, trends that they saw in their research for that ballpark for sure.
100%.
Now, one of the questions and concerns always for every team across baseball throughout the course of a season is injuries. And there's a couple of guys right now that are on the MLB.com injury report for the A's, in Esteury Ruiz, Miguel Andujar, Luis Medina, and Ken Waldachuk. What of those injuries, or anybody else that might have, had a nick or two, that you could tell us and be worried about?
So Esteury Ruiz is healthy now. He's been getting at bats in spring training, and same with Miguel Andujar. Andujar has always fought injuries the last several years. Everyone kind of forgets about Andujar. He finished second in Rookie of the Year voting to Shohei Ohtani. He was with the Yankees.
He should have won it, in my opinion. But
yeah, he was ridiculous. He was nutty. So that's going to be a key for us. Remember when I was telling you about July, August, and the A's playing great ball for those 2 months. I mean, he was either hitting second or fourth for those 2 months, and at the end of August, he gets hurt and was out the rest of the year. And that's kind of been his deal throughout his career. Medina was good, but we've been known that he's going to have Tommy John surgery this year, so he's going to be out the whole year. He's been placed on the 60-day IL. Same with Waldachuk. Waldachuk's a hell of a prospect. I believe it's the same type of injury for him. But both those are no surprises as far as going into the year and the offseason planning, etc. Esteury Ruiz, I don't think he's going to make the opening day roster. He is on the 40-man, but I believe he'll be starting his year in the minor leagues. It depends on his spring. The first 4 games, he hasn't been great. He's been 0 for 5, hasn't gotten on base. The key for him is getting on base. He was second in the major leagues just, 2 years ago in stolen bases. He has some electricity to him. I mean, he led the American League in stolen, was second to Acuna, I believe, a few years back. So I would love him there. But again, he has to get on base to be useful, right? So it depends. He has to have a big spring, and we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. Seeing him a few years ago, as you mentioned, with all those stolen bases was just such a change in the mindset of fans, because we had gotten so far away from stolen bases that having him have, that 50, 60 stolen base campaign, whatever it was, incredible to watch on a nightly basis, seeing, did he get one again tonight? It just kind of started bringing back that, late 90s, 80s, 70s, with all the stolen bases, especially from the A's with, the late great Ricky Henderson. So,
and now we're seeing it all the time, the stolen bases, right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I am a fan of the changes with the rules to kind of bring that back in. It's sad that it had to get to a point where we had to install changes to the rules to make it happen.
Yeah.
But, it does.
I like the rules too. I like the rules too. It took me a little bit, but I like it.
Now, as we kind of move into the next segment here, and we always like to bring about a focus on the team itself and some particular player or entity for the organization. Who do you think is the X factor for the A's in 2025?
I think it's going to be Lawrence Butler. I got him, and everyone thinks I'm crazy. I've said already on several of my shows that I have him as a top 5 MVP vote getter this year. Guy is just unreal. And he had 2 3 home run games last year. He had a 3-run home run game in Philly and in Cincinnati. He is your original power speed guy. He literally went like 20-20 just in the second half. He's nutty. And he started out spring great. He's 4 of 6 with a double home run, 2 singles. He is really, really, really good. And like I said, I got him as a top 5 MVP vote getter this year. And hitting wise, he's in July, he was arguably the best hitter in all of baseball as far as statistics and so forth and what he brought to the table. So, and he struggled during the first half. He got sent down. He figured it out. He's back up. I think he is the big key for the A's. Obviously, everybody else, in order to have a winning organization, has to come together. But when you're talking about who's going to stick out, who's our guy, who's the X factor, it's Lawrence Butler.
Yep, we are on the same page, my man.
Yep.
I pegged Butler in my preparation for this as
Yeah.
well. I
Yeah.
think he is so dynamic, and I think that looking at just the talent across the board in Major League Baseball, he stands out. You know, I think back to, like you said, the power speed combination. I think back to Acuna a couple years ago with the 40-70 season, Shohei with the 50-50 last year.
Yeah.
Butler to me is a guy who can be in that same caliber of player. So for
Yep.
sure, we were
And
on
it
the
was
same
fun.
page
It
with that.
was great to see him start the way he did in spring training, because you always get your doubts about those guys. All right, he's never been anything. He had the second half. Is it something? And boom, his first at bat, I believe, first or second pitch, laser, right field double. 2 at bats later, home run, right center field, gone. Comes back in his second game, boom, 2 for 3, hard hit balls. He's just barreling everything.
Yep, 100% agree with you, my man. It is
Yeah.
a fun player to watch for sure. Now, in looking towards the future of this organization, the top prospect is listed as Jacob Wilson. What can you tell us about him, and if there's any other prospects that you're kind of keen on?
Jacob Wilson, yeah, he got brought up last year. Second half, bat to ball wizard, right? Strikeout rate like at 3 or 4%. Just does not strike out whatsoever. Power's a little iffy. Okay. So that's going to be the question for him. He's young though. You know, he got drafted just 2 years ago and he got brought up last year. His first major league at bat actually was a base hit, line drive up the middle. He scored later in the inning. He got hurt. He was out for the next 6 weeks. He came back. He hit like 250 the rest of the way. So we're counting a lot on Jacob Wilson this year. He's had a tough start to the spring, 0 for 6. But if you're going to compare him to a player or hitter, think about like a right-handed Luis Urias, okay, who plays shortstop. Same type of player. Line drives, gap type of hitter. It's not going to hit the ball a long way. It's not going to hit your home runs. A prototypical number 2 hitter. So that's the key with Jacob Wilson. But when you're talking about prospects, it starts with Nick Kurtz. Nick Kurtz is a monster. Had 2 hits today in spring. Number 4 pick overall out of Wake Forest. A beast. Just an absolute beast. Best person to compare him to, and I probably you don't want to hear this, is Freddie Freeman, right? Power, a power, average type of guy. When you look at him, hey, there's a guy that could win the Triple Crown. He's not gonna steal 30 bases. He's not gonna steal 20, but he has a great glove at first. A potential Gold Glove type of guy, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets called up this year.
That's a big statement. Now, in terms of this series, one of the other aspects that we always like to dive into is a bold prediction. So what do you have as a bold prediction for the A's this season?
Everyone says this is a bold prediction, and then when I've stated it, people think I'm nuts. I think the A's are going to win the AL West, and it's not going to be close. I got to win 85 wins. The AL West is down, sure, but everyone forgets, if you look at the A's roster, forget about what the A's and what they have done and so forth. What some people don't realize about the A's history and their franchise is only 6 teams have made the postseason more than they have since 2000. I mean, they're a hell of a franchise. But I got them going 85 and 77. I got them winning the AL West convincingly. They got to stay healthy. That's the key. If they stay healthy, player for player, they are better. That's just the bottom line. They are just simply better than anybody else in the AL West. They have to stay healthy. And you could make that same type of argument for a lot of teams, but the A's are dynamic on both sides, pitching, hitting. They're really good. So I don't know if it's if it's bold or not. I mean, right now, if you look at the betting odds, they have the A's over under as far as wins at 71.5. I mean, what a joke. Put me on a plane to Vegas.
Yeah, so we're kind of similar when it comes to the bowl prediction. I do think that they're going to be battling for a wild card spot. I think that they're going to be battling for the division late into September. So I don't know if I necessarily have them winning the division, but I think that they're going to definitely be battling for that division into September for sure.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good call.
Now, in terms of the organization, what do you think is the biggest question facing the A's this year?
I mean, as far as the organization, I mean, obviously you got Sacramento for 3 years. They're in a minor league ballpark. They signed Kotsay to an extension. I thought that was huge. They signed Rooker to an extension. They're talking to signing Butler to an extension. So all that stuff makes a huge difference. They're continuing to develop their talent. And I was thinking about this the other day. When you talk about the A's and their organization and their future, you got something that sports has never seen before. Maybe the early Yankee teams are something that's the last teams to see it. The last teams I've seen is the 72 to 74 A's. And here's what I mean. You look at a potential roster in 2028 with the number 4 overall pick at Nick Kurtz at first. You have a first rounder in Max Muncy at second. You have the first rounder, the number 6 overall pick, and Jacob Wilson at third. Third baseman, you have a second round pick out of LSU by the name of Tommy White. Shea Langoliers was the 9 pick overall. JJ Bleday was the 4th pick overall. I mean, you're talking about guys that have played together coming up from AAA all the way up. If it happens, right? A lot of things have to happen in order for that to come into fruition. But organizational speaking, 2028, if things work out, and again, 3 years is a long way to 3 years is a long way. You have potential of dynasty, I think. And that's a big word, but just look at the players and look at what they did in college and look at their success in college, right? So they've beaten their classes and they've beaten their classes convincingly. So speaking in those terms, yeah, it's not too far-fetched of a prediction. But with that being said, we're still 3 years away.
No, for sure. And what about on the on-field product? What do you think the biggest question facing them is?
Staying healthy. I mean, that's the whole thing as far as the A's is staying healthy. And ownership need to continue, and they did a hell of a job this year. The thing about free agents is free agents are great, and I get why fans like them, but you have to sign the right free agents. You take a look at the Arizona Diamondbacks last year, right? And they signed Jordan Montgomery just to sign him, right? They wanted a big price free agent. He ended up being a bust. Well, let's say they didn't sign that free agent. One of their rookies ended up coming up and ended up being darn good. They were so close to making the playoffs. That could have been the turn. So it's important not just to get free agents to satisfy a fan base, but to get the right free agents. And everyone talks about the A's as farm system and developing. Well, yes, but also it's the kids that have gotten an opportunity. So, that's the whole thing. So they got to stay healthy, keep going with the organization as far as the farm system and so forth, but stay healthy. That's the big thing.
Yeah. So then on the opposite side, I know that last year this would have been an easy answer, but what is the biggest frustration?
No fan base. That's a frustration. We don't have a fan base. That's an extremely huge frustration. So we left Oakland. The Oakland fan base hates the A's. And if you continue to support the A's, you are considered a traitor, right? That's their whole take. So they don't support the A's one bit. We're going to Sacramento. The owner, Fisher, he did just a stupid thing, in my opinion, by not associating himself with the city, coming out and basically saying We're not the Sacramento A's. Why do that, right? So already there's a fan base in Sacramento that knows the team is just parking there for 3 years. It's tough. And for the owner to say, we don't even want to adopt your name, come on. That's just dumb, right?
Yeah.
And Vegas, while Vegas, I believe, has a great fan base, unbelievable fan base. They've showed that with the Vegas Knights, with the Aces, the Raiders, etc. They're still 3 years away. They haven't even stuck the shovels in the ground. So that's the biggest frustration right now is they don't have any type of fan base. It is literally nothing. And that sucks.
As we kind of look towards the organization and the on-field product, how would you grade out the offense for the A's this upcoming season?
I got a B. The big thing with the A's offense and what they're doing, and it's a big concern for me, is the infield, right? You have Shea Langoliers at catcher, who started off spring great. He had a big year, a solid year last year. High number 9 pick overall out of Baylor. But when you're talking about everybody else in the infield, you have prospects that have played in the big leagues. They have experience, but they're still just prospects. They could be great, right? They're not great yet. So you have at first base Tyler Soderstrom, who I compare a lot to a Christian Yelich, right? He looks the part. He's young. He's awesome. But that's all he is right now. He looks the part. Zach Geloff had a huge 2023, which got everybody super excited about him in 2024. And he ends up leading the major leagues in strikeouts, which was crazy. And this spring, he started out 0 for 6 with 5 Ks. You have Jacob Wilson at shortstop. Again, great prospect, has absolutely raked everywhere he has gone. He's hit, and he's hit well. He hasn't done that yet. And again, he hasn't had a sample. There's no real sample size to tell if he will. I mean, history says that he absolutely will. At Grand Canyon, he raked every level of the minor leagues he has, but when he came up last year, he wasn't great, around 250. And so far, again, spring training 0 for 6. And again, spring training, 2 games, not a big deal, but we're looking for something to give us some side idea what they're going to do. And then you got Gio Urshel at third base. We know what he's going to do, right? But he's not going to move the needle. He's not going to hurt you. He's not going to really help you. He's going to do his thing at third base. He's going to stay solid, so forth. Outfield, I think we know what we're getting. I think we know what we're getting with regard to Rooker and Lawrence Butler and JJ Bleday and Andahar if he stays healthy, and if Andahar gets hurt, we got Seth Brown, who's a solid replacement. So I got our offense at a B-, at a B, depending on what our infield is. That's my big concern, is the infield.
For sure. Yeah, I'm very similar. I have it as a C+ for the exact same reason that you mentioned.
Yeah.
I think I'm a little bit more hesitant on, what you're going to get from that infield.
Yeah.
I'm big on the outfield. I think that you're going to have a very good outfield, but there's real questions to me about what that infield is going to be able to produce on a nightly basis.
Yeah.
So I have them at a C+.
Yeah, I'm a B-.
Now, on the pitching side of things, how would you grade out the pitching?
As far as bullpen goes, I got the bullpen at a B+. Okay. Last year, the A's bullpen was one of the best in baseball. Everyone forgets that. We had guys like Michel Otanias, Tyler Ferguson, who were pitching high leverage innings. When Mason Miller was hurt, they were saving games. They've now gone down because we signed Leclerc. I still think Leclerc's great. I think our bullpen's really, really, really good. I think Mason Miller's the best closer in baseball, or up there, top 3 or 4, whatever it may be. I love our bullpen, B+. Pitching, starting pitching at the second half of the season, second half of the season last year in those 2 months was great. it's going to depend on if they stay healthy. So if I was to give our pitching right now, starting pitching a C plus, again, overall, I give us about a B minus.
Yeah, I'm very similar with you as well there. And it's for that same reason. I think that did a good job with the bullpen last year. Bringing in
Yeah.
Leclerc is going to be a good move. I think another year of Mason Miller already being a little bit more comfortable, knowing what he's capable of, and just continuing to get better is going to be a big deal. There are questions as to what you're going to get health wise from that rotation, so that is a concern.
Yep.
How is Jeffrey Springs going to bounce back? Can Luis Severino do what he did with the Mets? What he did with the Yankees early on. So those kind of questions are going to be what has me a little bit more hesitant, but I think, B minus C plus is kind of where I am with the pitching for the A's right now too.
And we've had a great start to spring training. 3 pitchers that have started that I have projected to be in the starting rotation, Springs, Bideau, and JP Sears. I mean, again, spring training, I get it, but still 6 innings pitched, 9 strikeouts, 3 hits, no runs. It's not bad. Not bad start for spring training.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely a good start. Now, as we look towards the divisional ranking predictions, Bakota has the A's coming in 5th in the division with 70 wins. Yeah.
What a
and
joke.
Fangraphs has them coming in 4th with 76 wins.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned earlier 85 wins and win the division. So I'm a little closer to you with the win total. I think that you guys are probably going to end up 3rd in the division. I think that it's going to be a very close race, though. I think the top 3 spots in the AL West will be between the 2 Texas teams and the A's. And I think that it's going to be divided up between 2 and 3 games. Like, I don't think it's going to be very much at all. I have the A's kind of getting to that same thing, 84, 85 win mark. I think that there's going to be a big step forward for them from last year. And for me, I think that there's a lot to like about this team.
100%. 100%. No, I'm with you. I agree. Yeah, 85 wins. I got us coming in 1st. I got Seattle 2nd. I think that pitching staff is just so good. I think it's the best starting pitching staff in all of baseball.
Yeah. I think with the M's, though, I think that they have no offense. And the more that gets discussed about that ballpark and how terrible it is for hitters, I can't see them putting together enough offense to be able to support that pitching staff. I think that there's going to be a lot of games where it's 1-0, 2-3 for them, and
right
on the losing side of things.
Yeah. No, that's a good call. That's a good call. So, yeah, that can happen as well. The Rangers are going to be really, really good. And obviously the Astros are always there, but they've lost a lot too.
They have.
So, Tucker, Bregman, they replaced him with Siri and the A's aren't getting much respect from anybody, which is good. That's how I like it. We're going to surprise a lot of teams, and we're good. Yeah, us against the world.
So as we kind of wrap up using the title of this series, where do you see the state of the franchise for the Athletics?
As far as a grade, or just in general?
In general.
Everything pointing in the right direction. I've been following the A's since 1981, so almost 40 years. I've never been more excited about the A's than I am now. They're doing things in, I don't know if the right way or however, whatever the right way is these days in baseball, right? But all I do know is that they are building culture with Kotsay at the helm. They have a young group of players that are playing together, that are playing together for a very long time. I think their chemistry is and will be the best in baseball. I think it's, like I say, I think in 5, 6, 7 years, I wouldn't be surprised you see the A's consistently in the playoffs, competing for a World Series. But you know how that World Series goes, man. It's hard. It's hard to get one. A lot of luck goes into getting it. I think the goal for any Major League Baseball team is get to the playoffs and see what happens. You get there enough, eventually you're going to get one.
Yeah, no, for sure. And as we've mentioned throughout the course of this broadcast, there's a lot to like about the A's and the direction that they're now heading.
Yeah.
Obviously there are going to be those questions as far as the location and what it is to be playing in Sacramento for 3 years, what it's going to be like once they finally make the move to Vegas. But looking at this season, there's a lot to be optimistic about if you're a fan of the A's.
It really is. Can't wait. Can't wait.
But yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a fun year for sure. And it's going to be a battle in that AL West. I think, there's going to be a lot more competitiveness from all 5 teams in that division this year than we've seen in the past couple. I think that Oakland is going to be kind of a driving force in that competition where they've kind of been overlooked over the last few years. So I think that they're going to surprise some people with how good they are this year.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. It's going to be an exciting time to be an A's. And the brand of baseball they play, too, is very exciting as well.
Absolutely. And we were already giving him his flowers, but to me, Lawrence Butler is going to be absolutely must watch.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Maybe the most exciting player in baseball. Up there.
Definitely. But I want to thank you for joining me here on this broadcast on the state of the franchise. Let everybody know where they can get more content from you and more A's talk.
Best way to get a hold is on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at Locked On A's. I mean, just shoot me a follow, and there's good content posted there, and you'll have the link to my channel on YouTube where you can catch the daily podcast. We cover the A's 5 days a week, so we're constantly on there.
Absolutely, man. And once again, this has been a fun conversation talking A's ball, one of 100%. The most historic franchises in baseball.
Absolutely.
So one that is definitely worth taking a look at if you haven't in a long time. So if you're checking us out on the YouTube side, make sure you do all the pertinence, hitting that subscribe button and the bell for post notifications. Make sure if you haven't, you hit our link tree in the show notes below for all the details with the merch shop, sponsor links, social platforms, and audio platforms. And if you are checking us out on the audio side, make sure you leave a 5-star rating review, as it does help us continue to grow this community. Once again, I want to thank my guest from Locked On A's for joining me here on the state of the franchise. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.